The second thing that I think is important, just going back to the relationships thing, is people, you now have to work to build relationships. And those relationships are not just about work. The idea of having all your communication just being dominated by your work tasks is, for us, nonsense.
Hey guys, it's Matt Haycox here, and we're here for another Corona lockdown podcast special, where today we're going to be talking about working from home, what people who've never worked from home before need to know, and what employers need to know about how to get the best out of their employees. We're here with Andrew Mawson. Andrew's the founder of Advanced Workplace Associates, and he's the brains behind the Workplace Week. So super qualified to be talking to us in this space, and a pleasure to have you here today, Andrew.
Yeah, good to be with you, Matt, as well. It's an interesting time that we're all finding ourselves in, isn't it? It's a strange time, but I think we're learning a lot as we go.
Well, my hair's explaining what an interesting time it's been. So,
Well, you're lucky you've got hair. This is a good thing.
If only barbers could work from home.
Indeed, that is going to become one of the big challenges, I think, over the coming weeks. Particularly for the ladies with hair that is no longer quite the same color as it needs to be, and the cut's gone a bit out of vogue. So yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. But, yeah.
Listen, just before we get on with the tips, just tell the guys listening a little bit about yourself. Your background and what qualifies you in this work from home space.
Sure. Well, I am the founder of a company called Advanced Workplace Associates. We set our business up, believe it or not, in 1992. And our whole reason for existence is to help organizations first of all, imagine what their future organization and situation could look like using some of these new ideas, and then helping them make the transition to it. So we work with some very big organizations in various different parts of the world to help them make that shift happen. And what's happened to us in the last kind of few weeks is that the shift to the most extreme model of working has happened. Having people working at home all the time is a pretty extreme scenario. So people are learning an awful lot, I think, and having their minds changed about the possibilities of different ways of working, as a knee-jerk, really. There's been no systematic change process or anything. It's just been a real knee-jerk. And people are kind of having to work it all out. And it's kind of interesting. So yeah, that's what we do. It's our day job. And I suppose the other credential we have is that we have, working with a partner in Amsterdam, the Center for Evidence-Based Management, we've reviewed pretty well all of the research that's been undertaken in the academic world around the world on managing virtual organizations, which has revealed a lot of interesting insights that are not particularly obvious.
Okay, fantastic. And yeah, I mean, I've been talking quite a lot about the work from home situations, space over the last month or so. I mean, a place I'm far from an expert in, but someone who has been, I guess, vociferously taking information in. I've never been a fan of the whole work from home concept. I feel that I guess I can't control the people, can't see the people, don't get the best productivity, etc. But I'm now more than happy to accept, always was happy to accept. It's not that the concept is wrong or the people are wrong. It's probably me, not recruiting properly, not giving the right tools, not managing properly, etc. And having been thrown into it now, like everybody. I'm sat here, like I think many people are sat here, actually realizing that if we embrace this properly, this isn't just how do we get through the next couple of months. This can be the foundation of a new model for many successful businesses in terms of cutting costs, increasing productivity, having access to a better talent pool, etc.
Yeah.
So I'm always very eager to hear the tips.
Yes.
And I also think it's a lot of these conversations are framed as what employers need to do, to be a better employer and take I guess provide the right service to their staff. But I also think it's something that the employees need to be asking themselves of, how do I be a better work from home person? Because far too many people, I think, even now a month or so into this, are naively sat at home thinking that working from home just means doing some work whilst whilst watching telly, helping the missus with the washing up, and you know, and having the kids screaming in the background at the same time. So, over to you for telling us how to do it all better.
Well, just let me 1 second. Slightly embarrassing. I think my laptop is about to run out of juice, so let me just plug it in. There's a top tip. Hang on a second. Okay, so yeah, so I guess the first thing to do is to recognize what's actually going on. I mean, when we're all in the office, we have this romantic idea that we're all somehow in the office together, and the world is, you know, is pixies and elves, and everything is marvelous, and all that sort of stuff. And in fact, it's not really true to start with. But in that situation, what often we don't realize is how much information we're actually getting about each other. We're in a very, we're in an always on situation where we're able to see and hear what's going on. We can, we interact with people in a very social and unstructured way. We can see how they're feeling. We can see their demeanor. We can see their body language. There's a huge amount of information that we kind of get for free when we're all in the physical office. And of course, from a leader's perspective, we're all together. So we all share one context, one physical and social context. So you can kind of get away with lots of stuff as a leader when you're in the when you're in a workplace and you're operating this way, that you can't get away with when you've got a team of people who are dispersed. They all have their own social and physical contexts, and you're not party to it. You're not privy to it. So it's a very different world. And of course, the other thing is that people are, when they're working away, they're also, you're getting information about them through calls, through video calls, and so on and so on. But they're letting you see what they want you to see, and you're getting snippets all the time. So in a sense, what you've got to do is you've got to work much harder as a leader to make that happen, and not just as a leader, but as an individual. As an individual within a team, you now have to take some responsibility for the ongoing management of your relationships with your colleagues and your boss and your people you work with, to maintain the social connection. You also have to take some responsibility for being trusted, because the other thing that happens when we're not all physically together is we start making judgments about what's going on. Oh, I can't get hold of such and such. I can never get hold of such and such. And you don't know where they are. They could be working really hard. They could be in other things, but you don't know. So there's, the brain starts to, make approximations and judgments and about what's actually going on. So it's a very different world. And I think what we have to do as individuals and as leaders is to recognize that world and start doing things a little differently. To make sure we're all in touch with each other. So I think that's kind of the overview, if you like, Matt. I mean, when you get down, I think, into the nitty-gritty of what do I need to do to be an effective worker? Well, the first thing that we insist, and we've been working like this for 28 years. We've got people all over the world, and we've been operating with Microsoft Teams and some of these tools for about 5 years now, very effectively. But the first thing we do is we make sure we always have the video on. Whenever there's a meeting, whenever there's a call, always have the video on. And the reason for that is there's a huge amount of information conveyed in video, which is, which just doesn't exist on a voice conference call. No. If you think about a voice conference call, it's a bit like all going into a meeting room, turning the lights off, and then sitting back to back with each other. And it's a bit of a weird thing. So the first thing we insist is that video is on, because that conveys the most information. The second thing that I think is important, just going back to the relationships thing, is people, you now have to work to build relationships. And those relationships are not just about work. The idea of having all your communication just being dominated by your work tasks is, for us, nonsense. I mean, I think there's as much goes on socially in the call. So when we typically have a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting, or whatever we use, the first part of the call is social. How are you doing? What's being, you'll hear the dog barking in the background, or there's a child comes into the screen or whatever, but it becomes a natural event. You're letting people see the reality of your situation. You're not doing what we often do, which is to put on a suit or a special set of clothes and going into work and being somebody you're a different version of you, if you like. This is really about authenticity and being comfortable in your own boots.
Sorry to interrupt you, but on that point then, but are you a believer then in that authenticity, or do you not feel that when someone's at work, or even working from home, they need to be at work? So, I mean, are you not an advocate for the fact that you should get dressed for work in the morning? I'm not saying put a suit and tie on, but but take your pajamas off, have a shower, walk around the block, feel like you're at work, be locked in a room without the dog and the missus and the kids, and the kids appearing in the back of a FaceTime call with the office.
I think you've got to manage it. I mean, so for sure, you want to be in an environment which isn't providing distractions to you or to the people on the calls you have. I mean, I think that's kind of quite important, and that's as true at home as it is in the office. You don't want that there either, and so you do need to try and make sure you've got that. And of course, it's very difficult for some people because they just simply don't have the facilities, but you kind of need some rules as well. If you're working, people need to understand in the house that you're working, that you're not available for household chores, for answering the door, for whatever. You are involved in work just as you would be in the office. Now, in terms of dress, I mean, it's kind of an interesting one. I personally am of the view that organizations need to be more authentic, that people should be able to feel they can show more of themselves and reveal themselves as whole people. And I think more progressive organizations are beginning to recognize that to be the case as well. And I think it breeds trust. I think it breeds better relationships, openness, and a greater flow of ideas and willingness and generosity to share ideas and stuff like that. So I think that kind of, but now what you wear, I mean, I think that is very interesting. I can tell you that very often in the morning I'll get up at possibly 6:30. I might be working from 7. I will be in my dressing gown, and I will I might continue to be in my dressing gown up to maybe 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, if I've got internal calls with my team, I will continue to be in my dressing gown, and I will switch on the video, and people kind of they take me for what I am. Would I do that with a client? Probably not. I might well just put on a shirt or something like that. But I think that this is part and parcel of this whole thing is getting to a model where people can be themselves and where they connect very easily. I mean, we have a community of around about 50 associates globally, and there's this, many people think, oh, you can't have good relationships, you can't have social connection and all the rest of it, unless you actually get together for real beers. I can tell you it's not true. There are people that I've never been in the same room as physically, and I have very good, trusting, honest working relationships. And we make this happen all over the world. So I think gradually over this period of time where we're being forced into this mode of operation, I think people are beginning to understand that as well. As long as you recognize that you can allow a bit of social, a bit of banter. We've had our own, we're having a sort of our own AWA cocktail evening kind of thing, and things like that, because we know anyway, from our research that we've done, we know that social cohesion, business friendships, to you and I, are kind of really important anyway in organizations, regardless of whether people are working at home or whether they're working in the office. And social cohesion really doesn't come about unless we're open and honest and friendly with each other and are prepared to, challenge each other and be comfortable in doing that, share our information, share our knowledge. So these things are all kind of connected together, if you like, Matt. And I think, we need to kind of move along a little bit. And to some degree, this thing that we're just going through is pushing us along quite quickly, I think.
I mean, what major problems have you actually had to deal with firsthand? You know, well, either I say for yourself, probably not for yourself because you're more adept at this, but you know, when working with clients, etc. You know, what are some of the biggest issues that you've come across?
Well, I think workload management, actually, probably more than anything else. I mean, there's a sort of a general sense that when we're working away, we must be, you know, this has traditionally been the case. I mean, it probably isn't so much now, but when we're working away, you know, it's a bit of a soft touch. You know, he's on the golf course, so he must be, you know, walking the dog or out for a walk. I think the reality is that, you know, for many people, overwork is the bigger issue. Because, you know, your work and your workstation is but a few seconds away from your bedroom and your personal cafeteria, if you like, and you can carry on working into the late evening. And if and you know, and many of us kind of do some of that, but the essence of it is to break it up and to take some time out to exercise and to walk and to you know, to have relationships. But overwork, I think, can often be a bigger problem than managing the performance of people who are underworking. That said, of course, the other thing that's kind of important, and the other thing that you do get when you're in the office, particularly if you're working with more junior staff, is you do get a very smooth and easy transfer of knowledge. You know, people learn from each other. You can sort of quickly pop in and say, "Oh, I've got a problem with this. Can you help?" Now, you can still do that with, you know, Zoom and Teams and all those sorts of products, but it's slightly less natural. And I think if you're going to have that kind of situation, then you need to more proactively agree the arrangements that are going to help the knowledge transfer. So those are the sorts of things that I think we find, you know, are at the heart of the difficulties. And I suppose the third thing is that, you know, people haven't really sat down with other people in their household and made an agreement as to how things are going to work. You know, when am I on duty? When am I off duty? When can I be interrupted? When can I not be interrupted? What is the expectation around me in terms of, you know, household chores and duties and things? Now, these sound very, you know, trivial things, but, you know, if you've got a household of 4 or 5 people, and actually at the moment, you know, 3 or 4 are working, and some of these things are not being dealt with, misunderstandings can happen quite quickly, and you can start to, you know, having to deal with a whole pile of other angst on top of learning new tools and learning new technologies and all that kind of stuff. So getting those arrangements, just sitting down very simply and you know, just talking through what's the new deal. And, you know, and some of the things we're doing now, we're facilitating sessions that help individuals do that with their colleagues at home. So trying to keep the whole thing friction free is kind of a big part of this, really, in every sense.
And where's your view on you know, fleshing out what I mentioned when we kind of introduced this call about the fact that, you know, what started as a how do we get through this is actually going to turn into a long-term shift in business model for both employers and also for employees now who are actually looking, thinking, you know what, I actually don't want to go back into an office environment. I enjoy not commuting, and you know what, this is maybe realize I don't want that job anymore. It's time for me to become a self-employed contractor, or, you know, or finally start that business I've been dreaming about for 10 years.
I mean, I think you're entirely right. I think this short period of time has opened, you know, the minds of people at all levels, that it is possible to do things in a way that they may not until this point arose. You know, they didn't think it was possible, and that's particularly significant, I think, for senior leaders, because quite a lot of senior leaders are a little bit further on in their age development, should we put it like that, and their view of the world is often different, because their model of the world is based upon their experiences of the world, and their experiences of the world have been that the only way you can possibly have any kind of connectivity and run a business is by everybody being together. That's the world that they've been in. And they, of course, they have a huge amount of power in either promoting a change or putting barriers in the way of it. So those people are really, really key. And I think what we're seeing, and certainly what we're hearing, is that a lot of senior leaders at board level are coming to this conclusion. Why do we actually need all that space in the centre of London? Could we not operate a different model? Perhaps we should have little satellite offices very close to where people live. You know, and people are also morphing across into thinking about the carbon footprint. You know, buildings are very large generators of carbon. So the less space you need in a central location, you know, of course, the less commuting you've got going, but you're also, you know, you're also generating a lot less carbon per head. So these things are all kind of, you know, kind of conflating together. And we, I mean, I kid you not, within the last 3 days, I've had about 5 conversations with senior leaders saying, you know, we don't want to lose this momentum. We don't want to go back to the old world. Can you work with us to help us flesh out what the new world might look like and help us to develop a change program which is helping us to get from where we are, not back to the old world, but to the new world. And you know, it's on everybody's lips, and without doubt, this time has been a you know, a stimulus, a trigger for a lot of people beginning to rethink not only their own situations but the situations that their own organisations are in. So yeah, and I think it's a fascinating time, really.
Completely. So for all these people listening to this or sat at home watching this who are ready to embrace that future, where can they find you? Where can they learn more?
Well, our website is www.advanced-workplace.com. We have a lot of resources on there, actually. I mean, if you go to the blog section, there's a whole pile of stuff about the research we've done around working away. There are some new services that we put together in that area as well, and you know, it's all there. There's some nice resources. Even if you're not interested in using our services, there's a lot of good information that you might find there. So you know, get along and have a look. And if you are in need of some help and support, we'd love to hear from you.
Fantastic. Well, listen, Andrew, it's been a pleasure having you on. I'm jealous of your sunny background.
Well, I'll be moving from here a little bit. It starts to get a little bit too hot in the conservatory, but yeah, it's nice and light and bright at this time of the day.
I guess that's going to be a new workplace problem: getting jealous of other people's backgrounds in the video calls. You know, you got to take the rough with the smooth. You no longer have to suffer the workplace, but you get to be jealous whilst watching other employees in more salubrious environments in the background.
Yeah, it could be home rage. Maybe.
Listen, thanks again, buddy. It's been fantastic listening to you.
Pleasure. Nice to talk to you.
Bye now. Bye bye.